Let's talk about the best mental abilities in college football 26, man. So I do want to do a video where I do a whole tier list, just ranking every single physical and mental ability in this game. But for now, I just want to talk about some of the best mental abilities. So I feel like some people don't really look at the mental abilities when it comes to recruiting and who you should start. I think people mostly focus on the physicals. So we're going to talk about some of the mentals and also some issues I found with some of these mental abilities where it don't really maybe make sense. If y'all enjoy the content, like, comment, subscribe, check out the Twitch. Let's hop into these abilities. So if y'all didn't know, before y'all start the game or start a game mode, y'all come over here and look at all of the abilities and it pretty much just lists them out for you guys. So if y'all didn't know, and then all the way at the bottom of this list, you get into the mental abilities. And I just want to cover a handful of my favorites, man. My favorites. I think it's definitely some that's way better than others. You know, for example, maybe the fan favorite might not be an ability I love. You know, it only works for half of your games. You know, same thing with Road Dog. It only works for when you're home or away compared to, you know, some of these other mental abilities. They work every single game, every single possession, you know, especially like this field general ability. And we'll start with the quarterback abilities. I really enjoy the field general ability, man. I think it's super good. You obviously got every single level, bronze, silver, gold, and then platinum. It's a different description. And one thing I don't like about the abilities overall in this game, they could never change for your dynasty. So whatever you recruit, however your guy comes in, that's all the abilities they get, mental abilities. And you know, it kind of makes sense, you know, but at the same time it don't. You know, this is an 18-year-old guy when he's coming out of high school, but when he's a senior, you know, he probably grew a little bit mentally. So, you know, I feel like the abilities or the mental abilities should be able to progress, you know, maybe only during off-season training or something. So I feel like that should be in the game, mental abilities. And also, you can only get 3 mental abilities per person. So only 3, and they can never, ever change. But this field general one, it's going to be pretty good, man. You're able to see pre-snap blitzers when you got the ability on bronze. And then each level, it pretty much just upgrades it. And it's a very, very good ability. The thing about these quarterback abilities and really abilities for every single like position group, every quarterback archetype could get the field general ability. It's rare, but I've seen a pure runner with this ability. I've seen dual threats, pocket passers, backfield creators. Any quarterback could get this ability, and it's probably going to be the best quarterback ability in the game, or mental ability in the game also. And then I also like the headstrong ability. Now this one is going to be more niche specific. You know, if you're a small program, maybe this ability is nowhere near as big of a deal. You know, this has to do with audibling when you're going against a good stadium pulse. So if you playing in a MAC, you know, you might not ever play against a big school on the road. You might not. Maybe you will. Maybe you schedule some big schools. But if you're in the SEC, this ability might be a need, because damn near every single away game, you're playing in a stadium with some major stadium posts. So another very good ability, another ability, like I said, you could get on any quarterback. Is just a little bit random. But if you could get the combination of headstrong and field general on a quarterback, I think that's going to be one of your best bets, man. I really do think that's a very good ability. And then also clutch kicker is another very good ability for your kicker, obviously. And as the ability goes up, it gets a little bit better, as you know, all the abilities in this game. But pretty much field goals within 2 minutes are just easier. It's easier to time, man. If y'all know anything, you know, that kick meter be moving, especially when they ice you. So, you know, once the ability get on platinum, you know, you pretty much can't get ice. Now, the issue is, you'll see there's one guy in the whole entire league with a platinum ability, at least in the dynasty. I'll show you guys. You know, in your dynasty, maybe you'll have 3 or 4, but there's not really many guys with platinum abilities. And the only guy with a platinum ability in my league is Clear Head. And, you know, his quarterback got Clear Head on platinum. And it's like, damn, these mental abilities on platinum really don't exist that often in Dynasty. And that's because, like I said, they don't ever develop. And I don't know if that should be the case, man. But another ability I really do like is team player. And this is ability. So first of all, when you play a guy out of position, when you play a left tackle at right tackle, a left guard at right guard, there's some type of, negative rating that your ratings go down, whether it's awareness or your pass blocking. It might only be about a 1, 2, 3. It's probably a small margin. I wish the game told us how much, but this ability tells us that when you play a guy out of position, their overall drops. So this ability just negates that, man. So having this ability, even if it's on bronze, will be useful for offense alignment. When you just auto set your depth chart, they'll usually put your best tackle at left tackle. Whether he's a right tackle or left tackle, they usually just move the best tackle to left tackle because that's usually the most important position. So you're usually, a lot of times, you're playing the right tackle at left tackle, so he's out of position, and if he don't have this team player ability, he might be getting a slight decrease in overall. And, you don't know because the game don't really say it in the depth chart. But like I said, this ability makes me believe that playing guys out of position drop overall. Same thing with D lineman. Maybe you have a left end and you're playing him at right end. Small decrease. In my head, this is what this ability is telling us. And, with O-line, D lineman, you might not be able to notice, when a guy is, losing maybe an attribute, some strength, whatever. But I played Coy for Minnesota. I had got him in my Colorado rebuild on the live stream series. If you know anything about him, he's a two-way player. He can play offense and defense. I put him at corner, which he's a defensive player by nature, and I started him at receiver. He do not have the team player ability. Even though he had a 90 catching, he would consistently drop the ball. And I felt as though it was because he was playing out of position without the team player ability. And because he's a receiver and he's dropping the ball, it's super obvious. But maybe when you're on the O-line and D-line and you're playing a guy out of position and he's getting pancaked or, he's missing blocking, in reality, we might be thinking, oh, that's bad game mechanics, when it could be, you're playing him out of position, so his awareness has dropped, or one stat just dropped significantly. Like I said, Coy, his catching seemed to drop significantly, even though it said he had 90 catching, around 90 catching traffic as well, but he was just dropping the ball consistently because I think he was out of position. So a lot of information, all of that, 100% true. I don't know. I'm just telling y'all my experience and how I think this team player ability works. So this is significant in my opinion. Now for a running back, don't really matter because you're probably not playing your running back at receiver. Maybe if you're playing your running back at fullback, it'll have some, some use, but it's not, team player is not useful at some positions, man. At safety, if you want to put your safety at corner, okay, team player is useful. So I love to see this ability on offensive linemen where I'm deciding who to start or, even who to recruit. If I see this team player on the offensive defensive lineman, I'm more likely to bring them in. Because even think about when you're setting your depth chart for the defensive line, you got the rush defensive tackles, you got the rush edge rushers, you might play a guy at sub linebacker, do that also count as out of position? Especially if you play a rush defensive end and now you're playing them at rush defensive tackle, on third, whatever. I just think about all that weird stuff where guys are playing different positions. So just having this ability is very, very useful, and I think it's underrated. I want to do a whole video testing team player. I do want to test it and see how useful it is, and also see if it has anything to do with position changes. If I change a guy from, defensive line to linebacker, if he has team player, do he gain less skill caps? I know they dropped the patch where, you can move guys within the D-line, but you still can't move a guy from D-line to linebacker, even though I think you should in this game. So I'll do a whole test on team player at some point. So next I want to talk about best friend. And one thing we'll see here is it's a difference from the ability description on this screen than the ability description inside of Dynasty, if that makes sense. So here, it gives a little bit more information. So slight composure gain from the quarterback when making a catch on third down or fourth down, making a first down catch on third or fourth down. This is a receiver or tight end ability best friend. So your quarterback just gains exposure when you make a catch on third or fourth down. Now in Dynasty, the way it's worded, and I'll show y'all here later, it just says on a first down you gain composure, but in reality it's only on third or fourth down. So at first I thought this ability was, oh, this is a useful ability. You know, any first down catch, you know, my quarterback is gaining composure. But no, it's only on this specific third and fourth downs. So, and I'll show y'all the other version there in a second. But like I said, I thought this ability was a lot more useful than what it actually is reading this description of it. And maybe the most valuable mental ability in the game, instant. This is a mental ability for linebackers. And it's pretty much quicker reaction to run plays. Simple, super simple description. And, you know, this ability just allows your linebackers to play the run better. The good part about this ability also, you know, like I talked about with the quarterback, you can get these abilities on any archetype. They come in on the signal callers, the lurkers, and the thumpers. All three of the linebacker archetypes, you could get this ability. This ability is rare. It's very, very rare to get, but it's useful. And I'll show y'all here, man. So I got LSU here, and all I did was just scout 35 linebackers. Our class is full of linebackers. And I just want to see how many linebackers, you know, when you scout, you always get to see their full abilities list. And just how many out of 35 linebackers, you know, will have the mental ability instance. And it's 3 to answer your question, man. Only 3 of these 35 linebackers. Obviously, you know, not saying that's going to be 100% accurate across the board. This is, you know, only 35 linebackers. This is 4 stars and 4 stars, 5 stars, and a few 3 stars in here as well. But, you know, you have a guy like this with great mental abilities, you know, also adrenaline. That's going to be another ability I cover in a second now. But he has great mental abilities. He got instance on silver, and we know abilities can never upgrade. So when you could get, you know, a guy come in with 3 abilities, and, you know, some of them are already on silver compared to, you know, maybe a guy like this with no abilities. And, you know, it also don't seem like these mental abilities are coordinated with being a gem. You know, you'll have some busts, you'll have some guys, you know, not a gem, you'll have some gems with no abilities, you know, so it just almost seems random. Like here, he's a bust, but he has 3 abilities, you know, 3 mental abilities at least. So like I said, it just seems a little bit random. You know, you get a gem right here, 4-star gem, no mental abilities. So I said the abilities, mental, at least just seem a little bit random. So I'm over here on a receiver inside of Dynasty. I just want to show you the difference, you know, of the description. Quarterback composure gain on first downs. You know, when we looked at it at the other screen, it said, you know, it only happens when you get this first down when it's third or fourth down already. But here, it's a lot more vague. So, like, which one is it? You know, I'm assuming it's the one that's actually in the settings. But this is another situation where it's like, which one is it really? And I have another example, man. Another ability that I really like is going to be D-line Raleigh. And I want to show you the verbiage of it inside of Dynasty. So tackle for losses, increase the confidence of other D linemen. You know, I love an ability that helps out the whole D line. We get tackle for loss, you know, that should count as, you know, a confidence boost. What is a confidence boost? Overall slightly should increase or something like that. That's how I think it works. That's how we think it works at least. For other D linemen, including himself, I'm assuming. So that also should include a sack as well. You know, a tackle for loss, a sack counts as a tackle for loss, right? Now, if we go over to the ability list over at the home screen, the verbiage is going to be different, and it got me questioning it. D-line Raleigh, sacks slightly increase composure of other D linemen. And so which one is it? And, you know, even from bronze all the way to platinum, the word it used is sacks. But in Dynasty, it says tackle for losses. Now, that's a big difference. So which one is it? Because a sack, you know, obviously is a tackle for loss. But if running back runs the ball in the backfield and he gets tackled for loss, that's not a sack. You know, so like, which is it? Is it? I don't know. Should we assume it's both? I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna go ahead and assume. So if you get any tackle for loss, even if it's not a sack, you know, that increased the composure. And then if you get a sack, it also increased it. But it's almost like this stuff was made by like two different people or wasn't really thought out. And I hate to nitpick like this, but like when I'm doing these videos for y'all, when I'm looking into all this stuff, doing all these tests, like I'm noticing like these small details, and it's tough for me not to tell y'all or not to at least bring them up as I find them, man. So I don't mean to nitpick, but it's like, bro, which one is it? But I also like this offensive line rally, slight composure gain for offensive linemen when performing a pancake. I like these abilities that helps out the whole entire offensive line. Legion is going to be another one, man. When a defensive back get an interception or a pass deflection, it pretty much increased composure for all defensive backs. Another ability I really like, man. Like you get a slight overall increase, a slight boost to certain attributes with the composure gain. I like that for for the whole entire team or whole entire position group. So that's another ability I really do enjoy. And then another one is adrenaline. I like this ability, especially on a running back, man. Running backs wear and tear sometimes get janky. Same thing with quarterback. It get janky sometimes, man. So slightly improved recovery of wear and tear damage when off the field. So, if you take a guy off for a couple plays or maybe even the quarter ends or maybe even we're on defense, he's going to gain more of his wear and tear back. His damage is not going to be as bad. So that's a good ability, like I said, for certain position groups. So I think we need to, actually pay attention to these abilities a little bit more. I know there's going to be some guys out there that say, they actually look at abilities when they decide who to start, who to recruit. I know it's a good portion of people that totally ignore these mental abilities. They are valuable, maybe sometimes a little bit more valuable than actual abilities for certain position groups. Because we know some guys like tight end, they rarely, especially certain types of tight ends, they don't really get their physical abilities. But if you do get a tight end that comes in with, 3 mental abilities and they all on silver, you might want to prioritize that guy rather than the other one, that comes in with no mental abilities, especially if they're good mental abilities. If he got team player, might not be the biggest a deal because you're probably not playing your tight end out of position unless you maybe put them at fullback. But just keep that in mind. But best friend could be, a good, useful mental ability for your tight end to have. But that's all I got for y'all boys today. If y'all enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Let me know y'all favorite mental ability and also maybe a mental ability y'all do not like. But that's all I got for y'all, and we're on to the next one.